Does youth equal President Obama? That's the conventional wisdom when it comes to where the youth vote will end up in November. But our next guest says, not so fast. Alex Schriver is the national chairman of the College Republican National Committee and joins us from Washington. Thanks for being with us, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm looking at the polling here. You know, the president beat John McCain in 2008 by 35 points. He's up in a new Harvard poll significantly on Mitt Romney with young people. He's made student loan interest rates and Pell Grants and health care reform key parts of his platform. What am I missing here?
You're missing the fact that this president, over the last 3.5 years, has failed young voters. There was a poll out last week that says the president's margin with young voters has gone from, as you mentioned, 66-32 in 2008 down to just a 13-point lead, 50-37 over Governor Romney. And we're seeing more and more young people realize that their lives are not better off 4 years later. They bought hope and change in 2008, and they're sitting here with $1 trillion in student loan debt, 18% youth unemployment, saying we want a president that's going to fix these problems, not make them worse for our generation.
Okay, but here's what I'm looking at. I mean, you've got Mitt Romney, who has endorsed the Paul Ryan budget plan, which would cut Pell Grants. He's offered nothing in the way of a health care reform plan to help young people get health insurance. I mean, what does Mitt Romney have to offer here to young people?
74% of young people's #1 issue are jobs in the economy, according to that same Harvard study that you cited.
Oh, and the president is also focusing on jobs in the economy. Both candidates have made that a priority.
On jobs in the economy over the last 3.5 years. The fact of the matter is, half of my generation didn't get up and go to a job this morning. That's the highest rate since 1948 when the government started keeping track. This hasn't just been a bad time for young people. This has been a historically bad time for young people. And we need real change and real hope in the White House to actually get young people and this generation back on track. And by talking about
we do understand that much of the problem is because of the policies of George W. Bush, right?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, that rhetoric is fine, but Steve, let me ask you
this. When does Obama own this economy? That's what I want to know. When does he take ownership?
When the Republicans in Congress, how about let him have any of his policies passed? But Steve, let me ask you this, because here's my thing. If Republicans are so confident that they can win the youth vote, why have they gone out of their way to make it hard for college votes? That's what Alex is saying.
They're not confident.
50 states have passed voter ID laws that would make it harder for college students to vote. If they think they can appeal to young voters, why are they doing that?
I think when we have discussions about specific segments of the voting of the electorate, we need to have some sense of perspective. Now, it's true, in 2008, it was a 66-32% margin for Obama among young people. It's true that if you take a poll now, it's going to be less. Now, we have 13 points being cited here. Gallup has it over 20. The key to remember is every single demographic group that you check, Obama is going to have less support with right now than he did in 2008, basically across the board. There's going to be some fluctuation in there, but when you're presiding over an economy that's basically as stalled and is in as bad shape as this one, there's going to be slippage anywhere. This is still, if you look at 18 to 29-year-olds, that is still Obama's strongest age demographic. You go across the board, he is still stronger there than anywhere else. And I think there's a long-term issue here that the Republican Party has to grapple with when you talk about the youth vote, and that is the cultural messages that the Republican Party sends out. They send out a message that really turns off young people in this country because there are some real gaps on cultural issues. If you, for instance, gay marriage, ask people 18 to 29-year-olds, do you think gay marriage should be legal? 66, 70%. Something around there will say yes. Well, Republicans in Gallup, 22%. I think young people, there's a real disconnect there, and I think until the Republican Party comes along on that, they don't have a long-term answer to their problem with youth.
Let me turn the tables here a little bit on you, Essie. If you were if you were the president, right, and you are trying to have, I think he still, by and large, has young people on his side, but there is a question of enthusiasm. If you were trying to get young people to register, despite these onerous laws, to come out and actually vote, what would you do if you were him, given the tough place we are in the economy?
Well, yeah, Obama's going to get the youth vote. I think that's clear. But I think Republicans, and to Alex's point, are trying to point out that liberals get it wrong when the economy's bad. They think that identity politics every time is going to drive people to the polls. And it's not. As Alex said, it's the economy and it's jobs. And this demographic in particularly is concerned about the bad economy. We are throwing these young people out into a very inhospitable environment. And they, in some ways more than other demographics, are very concerned about the opportunities that they're not going to get. And frankly, staying on their parents' insurance until they're 26 is not the kind of opportunity that they're most concerned about right now.
I want to engage Alex for a second, because I generally find young Republicans to be a sort of strange breed. Most young people, regardless of who's at the top of the ticket, most young people tend to be Democrats, and it's been that way for a long time. So when I meet a young Republican, I want to sort of put him on the couch and be like, how did this happen to you, and how might you be saved? I mean, can you just talk a little bit, just philosophically, about why you're a Republican, and how old are you, by the way?
Are you really treating him like he's some kind of science experiment?
Oh, absolutely. I treated you like that when I met you, but he's even younger. How old are you, sir, and why are you a Republican?
I'm 23 years old, and I'm proud to be a Republican. I'll tell you, unfortunately, Steve, history says that that's not true. Republicans have won the youth vote 3 times in the modern era. We actually came within 2 points of tying it in 2000. And so this idea that when you're young, you're supposed to be liberal, and as you grow older, you grow more conservative, just isn't the case. This polling tells us that the youngest members of this demographic, right, the number you just put up on the screen, 8 million new voters that have come of age since 2008, and that portion of this demographic is skewing more conservative. These are college freshmen and sophomores who saw their older brothers and sisters get caught up in hope and change 3.5 years ago and have moved back. Boomerang generation. Okay? 1 in 3 young people now live with their parents after going to college. That's the highest since the 1950s. We're heading the direction of countries like Spain and Greece, where half of young people live with their parents. So that 8 million new voters, we're confident they are going to come out. They are enthusiastic, but unfortunately for this White House, not for their guy.
Well, look, Alex, I think everybody's agreed that the economy is in a very tough place now. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And that's where we're still waiting for Mitt Romney to provide specifics. So, Alex, I want